see. Okay, we are going. Okay, this is just a political video, because I thought of something last night. Oh, I must either stand corrected or maybe move a little on this. Remember the RFK rant of the food stamp thing. Don't tell us what to buy, sell trade with food stamp. Well, buy, because you can't sell trade. Anyway, sodas, candy, this and that, which is really wrong-headed. I don't know where you're going with that. Well, I made my point. Here's another point that might be in your favor. RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I was a kid when you were a kid, so I don't remember. Kind of thing. RFK Jr., yeah. What's the F stand for? Anyway, this is one for you, bro, that you could put up into this and that and blah, 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 right? This is a positive. It's like an opposing viewpoint to my point. I do that all the time. Back in the day, before the food stamps came with stamps, I can't remember how they did it because they were stamps. We were back in the day, we tore out stamps and they had to stamp them. A real big pain about, right, this and that. And they did have some restrictions then. And what we did was, we just handled it like they were coupons, store-bought coupons. 10 cents, blah, blah, blah. We would buy fundamentals, right? Meat, eggs, salt, sugar, flour. Those, like I said, the buckboard fundamentals is what we're going to call them. Right, because you couldn't buy all that. It was restricted back then, way, way back. And then they started throwing it, which I was glad because, man, come on. Right, but my point now, being a veteran, I was in the Army for the best part of 5 years. And I went to Europe, to Germany, West Germany, when it was still East and West. And over there, now public people, folks abusing these food stamp cards, going buying this and that, and more than, yeah, come on, because there are those, right? In Europe, when I was there in the 80s, early 80s, that was only like 40 years since World War II, right? Well, now it's 80, because, 60. Right, they had still had, like, go downtown Frankfurt, score hash. I was a GI, who cared, right? They still had facades of buildings, right, that were bombed out, just the front with empty windows, still there, right? So, they didn't like, sidebar. No, I'll do that sidebar all its own because you don't know. Anyway, we had ration cards for bread, sugar, things. You had a ration card. You get a ration card for alcohol, rum, whiskey, stuff. You can buy all the beer you want, all the wine, but whiskey and stuff, rum, gin, hard liquor, no. It was rationed. I think sugar was rationed. I think butter. Those were, you had a ration card that you chicky stamped. So if you folks, and I'm glad to help, well, I'm not, I'm being helped. I helped back in the day when I worked. Wish to be helped, let's get a little more prudence to our purchasing power. Okay, you get money, you get food stamps. And the big mistake I made was that I wouldn't buy anything off of food stamp. If I ran out of food stamps, I wouldn't get no dang food with money. But not, presently. But like I said, back in the day, I would buy fundamentals and stock that up and then go to the money to get the cereal. When you get cereals and this and that, Cheerios and such. But be careful, everybody, and I'm going to be behind RFK Jr. on this one. Be careful. We could ration that stuff You imagine, 5 kilos of beef and 8 kilos of chicken, and that's what you get. And I said kilos because back in the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union, I remember that. I helped bring it down the wall. Yes, right. These empty refrigerated coolers of old time. There's the big white ones where you looked in, like, empty. Nothing. I'm like, well, watch out for that, right? Because, things go badly. And Europe, they had to ration food. They had to ration this and that, cigarettes, alcohol. Americans, on assistance, practice more prudence or things could get really real. Wartime Europe, ration cards. Imagine a carton of cigarettes a month. Ooh. Or 10 chickens, that's it. I lived that. It was, they were coming up. It wasn't like, oh my God, terrible. But, I had a ration card. I had to have it ticky stamped. And this and that. So, people, come on now. Let's get American and get this done. And practice proper prudence. And let's build this up back to where it was. Yeah. All right. That's it. Live by your wits, not by your worries. And remember, race fast or die in pain. All right. Peace. Love ya. Bye.